Yo, what's good, everybody? Brent here. Friday, November 28th. I hope everybody enjoyed your Thanksgiving for everybody who celebrated. Uh, I just got back to my apartment not too long ago, and um, I am streaming from outside. So if you guys hear some air going on, someone's doing some work on inside. So if you guys hear any air or any white noise, that's why. I don't think it's too bad. Tested it out before. But yeah, hope everybody's having an amazing day. Friday, November 28th. Not too much going on in the markets, but wanted to get on the stream like I do every Friday and talk about some potential scenarios for Bitcoin, which again, why I talk about so much about Bitcoin during these times is because whether people want to deny it or not, Bitcoin drives the entire market, right? The majors essentially drive the entire market from, the other coins, altcoins in the top 10 down to, meme coins, all the way down to like the trenches and the conditions there. So that's the reason why, Bitcoin is so pivotal, and what it does during these times really drives everything else. So we'll look at Bitcoin, some potential, scenarios there on whether I think we're going to see a V bottom, whether history supports that, or whether likely we're going to, be in this little consolidation for a while longer. We'll talk about the 10 best setups that I like for 2026. I think there's so many, the short term's a little bit of a mystery here, but when we do come out of here, there's so many great opportunities in a lot of different sectors. Again, if you've been on the streams for the past few weeks, first of all, before we get into that, if you guys are new to the stream, please let me know in the chat. Say new to the stream. Thank you. Either way, thank you so much for being here with us, especially during a holiday time and kind of a boring time like this. Appreciate you guys all for spending your time with me here. Make sure to like, retweet, comment, share. And if you haven't been here, you're new to the stream. If not, you know that we like to make these streams super interactive. Always looking at the chat, answering comments, questions, especially during a time like this when not a lot to talk about. But yeah, let me know how your guys' holiday weekend was, if you celebrated. If not, let me know. Like I said, let me know where you're at in the world, where you're coming in from. But let's see, what's up, Khan? What's up, Hunter? Let me look at something real quick. Okay, perfect. All right, guys. Let me look at the chat real quick. What's up, Hunter? What's up, Medex? What's up, Bryce? What's up, Kaido? Let me look here. Bitcoin, though. Let's start with Bitcoin. So I put out this video earlier today. You should go and watch that for a little bit more of a in-depth look into this, but we'll go over it right now. Bitcoin, essentially, if you look back, and I suggest, sorry, let me share my screen. I suggest everybody go back and look at these past corrections and these past charts because they do leave clues. And essentially, these corrections are different in many ways, but a lot of the times they end and start in the same ways. So all these corrections in the past few months, the past few years, they all ended with at least a few weeks of consolidation, right? That means they held a low. In this case, back in 2024, it held this low at 55K for multiple weeks, about 8 weeks, and then headed to all-time highs. Back in April, we saw Bitcoin consolidate for about 5 weeks, headed to all-time highs. Now, Bitcoin right here has only held this low for about a week. So what V bottoms are essentially where it doesn't consolidate for multiple weeks. While that's possible, like I just showed you, that never really happens. It's very, very rare. So what I'd like to see Bitcoin do to really solidify this bottom here and drive the rest of the market up is some type of consolidation or holding this low above 81K that it's already been holding for a week for another 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. Again, it could be a week, could be 2, could be 3. Again, it ranges, but what I again would really like to see to really solidify the bottom, again, matching up with what we've seen in past corrections. I forgot about this one as well. Back in 2023, consolidated from August 18th all the way to October above this low. which is again like 6 or 7 weeks before it really sent. So again, whether Bitcoin comes back down to this low and retests it like a double bottom, like we saw here in April, where again it went up from 77K, went to 88, and then retested that 75K low one more time before sending. Whether it's that or what we've seen from Ethereum, for example, in some of its corrections, is it'll just go down, pop up, and then just consolidate above that low and never go back and retest it. Essentially, what I'm looking for is again one of those two things: whether it comes back down and retests that 81K low, or it just holds above and consolidates without breaking lower. That's what I'd really be looking for to really solidify this bottom. And again, it's definitely possible that Bitcoin says, fuck that, and it just continues higher. But again, that just rarely happens. These assets, not just crypto, but you'll see this in metals, stocks, all these different places. Assets need time to accumulate in this case or distribute to the upside before changing, before reversing and changing trends, if you want to call it. So that's really what I'm looking for. I wouldn't be surprised for the next few weeks for Bitcoin unless we just continue to break higher. I think it's very possible that we either chop sideways or chop back down towards that 81K low. And that would actually be the cleanest setup, is if somehow, we just stopped out here and then just formed one more leg lower, retested that 81K low. It could be a higher low where it doesn't hit that low, or it could just sweep that low like we saw in April. But I wouldn't be surprised if we get one more move down to 81K, and then that's what really springs us back to all-time highs, or maybe not all-time highs, but springs us back and forms that local bottom. And then from there, guys, for Bitcoin, it's really it's another it's really simple. If Bitcoin, one of two scenarios here for Bitcoin, I think it bottoms out and chops up here slowly towards that 102 105K area, fails to break above this 200 moving average I have here. You see that 200 red moving average, and rolls over. I put that at about a 30 to 35% chance of happening, because again, I do think that all of the other things outside of price action, I'm talking the macro framework, the regulatory stuff, institutional adoption, all that good stuff, is very bullish. I think very likely this move up takes us back to all-time highs and does something probably like this, where here, let me remove this one too. Essentially, where it does something like this and just takes us back to all-time highs. I put that at about a 70% chance of happening here. Again, due to the other things outside of this, despite this move being so, steep, a lot steeper than the past corrections. If we look at everything outside of, again, the charts, I think 70% chance we just go straight to all-time highs from here. But again, there's always the possibility that it does something like this, where comes back towards that 200 moving average, probably in a slow, choppy manner, and then rolls over one more time into 2026, which would probably give us a low in the 70s, could be 60s, high 60s, something like that. And at that point, I would very likely think that is the final low, and would probably cause a lot of FOMO panic. A lot of people, for sure, throwing in the towel as far as like some type of, pretty much calling the 4-year cycle top. But I think at that point, that would very likely act as the final low. But again, guys, I think there's a very, very high, strong possibility that Bitcoin, because of, everybody already being wiped out and all the other things we talked about, that Bitcoin just rips from here straight to all-time highs. And the reason why the 200 moving average is so important is because it has precedent in the last bear markets. If you see right here, Bitcoin came up from 67K, came down all the way down to 34K in a matter of 6 weeks. What did it do after that? It consolidated and then bounced back here. Let me zoom in a little bit. It bounced back all the way back to that 200 moving average, as you guys can see here, where I have the little arrow. 200 moving average, touched it, and what did it do? Failed to break. And what did that fail to break lead to? Another, 60, 75% crash on Bitcoin before the cycle finally bottomed out and bear market finally bottomed out. And we moved into the next cycle. So 200 moving average. Also in the last bear markets as well. Is you see here, Bitcoin topped out. Let me close this. Topped out in 2017, came back down all the way down to um, let's see, it came back down all the way down to like 7K, like a 60% run, traded back to that all time, or traded back to that 200 moving average, and then again rolled over another 50%. So again, this 200 moving average on the daily time frame, I don't usually use moving averages too much other than these higher time frame setups. So again, 200 moving average, if this, I think we're going to bottom out on Bitcoin very likely here in the short term, in the next few weeks. If the move up here fails to move above that 200 moving average, I think we may see one more rollover. But again, I think that's the least likely scenario. And again, the 200 moving average here, guys, if you see here in April where it ended up being a correction, what happened once price moved back above that 200 red moving average? It just ripped all the way back to all-time highs. Same thing here in October of 2024. Once price moved back above that 200 moving average, it ripped another 2x, another 75% back to all-time highs. I could show you time and time again. Here, once it crossed back to 200 moving average, went, another 2.5x above all-time highs. So I expect much of the same if Bitcoin does break above that 200 moving average on this next leg up here. That we will rip to all-time highs, probably hit 150, 160, 200 into 2026. But again, if you want to watch this yourself, I'm going to continue to update everybody, obviously on the timeline and in the streams. But if you want to pull up these moving averages yourself, you can go to indicators like I have here, type in moving average, make sure it's the simple moving average, not the exponential one, and then you can change it to whatever numbers you want. Here I have the 200 moving average and then the 50. For those of you guys probably heard of the death cross, which is essentially the crossing of this 200 moving, or I'm sorry, the 50 moving average, crossing the 200. Essentially, that's a big momentum indicator that has marked the tops, like I showed you, on a bear market, but also has it also has happened during these big corrections too. And like I showed you a second ago, whenever we recross after that death cross, when the red moving average moves back above the blue again, that's when we start to see price accelerate. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. I think next few weeks we probably see some chop or some slight move down for Bitcoin. And then I think into probably early December into Christmas, I do think we get a move up, and we'll see how strong that move up. I'm very optimistic again about 2026 and pretty optimistic about Q1. But either way, I think worst case scenario, guys, is Bitcoin fails to break higher after this next leg and gives us one more leg into the 70s. At that point, I will be DCing, very heavily, have most of my stables in at that point, because again, I think the writing's on the wall. I mean, regulation stuff, the Clarity Act is about to get passed, which again, I think people are really underestimating how many people and how much, founders and builders that's going to bring into crypto, I think. And then, the macro stuff, I think we're very likely going to get that cut into December, which who knows, it's probably going to be priced in, or it's going to be, people are going to be anticipating it. But again, the more that the Feds can cut rates essentially, and they can get rates closer to that 0% like they used to have it, without a bank breaking, or bank going out of bankrupt or something breaking, the closer they can get to stimulating the economy and eventually printing, which they always do. So yeah, guys, I think it's just a matter of time before we do get a next move up. And obviously want to be hopeful that this next leg up on Bitcoin leads us straight to all-time highs. But if it doesn't, again, it's a matter, if we look at these bear markets of the past, even if we were to get the worst of the worst of the worst bear markets that we've ever had before, um, that was only, November 2021. It was from November of 21 and it bottomed out in October of 22. So 11 months. If you want to count the consolidation, it literally was like 13 months from top to bottom. We already topped out here, 2-3 months ago. So let's say worst case scenario, we see the worst bear market of all time. We're in this for another 6 or 7 months before it bottoms. If we know where this thing's going, Crypto's going to see mass adoption. Meme coins, and the world's headed towards speculation and all these great things that crypto is like in the middle of. It's like, obviously wouldn't be the best, but it's I'm willing to wait it out. I don't know about you guys, but either way, I think we're gonna head up in the short term either way. ETH, yeah. Appreciate the reminder. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna go and look at the chat really quick. I know I went on a little bit of a rant. I want to know what you guys think of Bitcoin. Does this make sense to you? Do you think we get a move up here? Do you think we are going to get that failure of the 200 moving average and a move back down? I always like to see what the chat thinks. What's up, Medex? Short-term macro report. We're going to consolidate here, then dive down to 60. I could see it. I don't know about the 60s, but I don't think we're going to dive from here. QT ending December 1st. What will happen to assets? Um, Let me get some water real quick. Hold on, guys. So right away, again, this is something that people are already anticipating. So I don't know if it's going to have a reaction instantly, but QT turning off and essentially them getting closer to doing some type of quantitative easing is always bullish for assets, bro. Again, not in the very short term. Sometimes the market reacts different ways based on expectations, but overall, generally, quantitative easing, any type of QE and stimulative environment is good for risk assets. Debasement, it causes debasement to the currency and um, drives assets higher. So, you know, what will the reaction be in the very short term? It's hard to tell, but um, it's hard to tell exactly what's going to happen because there's a lot of other stuff in play with crypto because of 1010. But overall, zooming out 3, 6, 9 months, QT ending and QE starting is definitely bullish. I appreciate you retweeting the stream, Carl. Yeah, if you guys could like, comment, retweet the stream, be much appreciated. Share all that. I'm gonna go ahead and quote tweet the stream real quick too. Yo, we're live. All right. But yeah, ETH, same kind of thing, guys. It's the majors are all essentially going to follow each other. I do think ETH is going to outperform Bitcoin to the upside because we do have ETH Bitcoin. ETH Bitcoin is, I think, a dead fucking giveaway of what's going to happen next on this next leg. First of all, on the higher time frames, ETH Bitcoin, for those of you guys that don't know, ETH Bitcoin measures the strength of ETH versus Bitcoin over time. So when we're charting this, we're essentially forecasting what we think ETH is going to do against Bitcoin, which one's going to be stronger. And as you can see here, ETH obviously took a shit against Bitcoin in, up until April. I'm sorry, from September 2022 up until April, because of the Bitcoin ETF. Bitcoin is dominant. There's a lot of FUD around ETH, all that stuff. Then since then, it's been up about 2x, kind of out of this correction, this higher time frame correction it's in. And then even more recently, if we go to the daily time frame, since August of 2025, it's just put in a beautiful corrective coil up. These are the kind of setups that I love. Again, it's just super kind of coiled up, super corrective. Right, what do you guys see here too? Right on top of that 200 moving average, consolidating as well for over 3 weeks. I mean, it has everything it needs to kind of confirm that this is a corrective structure and that it is going to move up, into, I think, into the end of the year and especially into 2026. And what does that tell us when ETH Bitcoin is going to head higher? That means that ETH is going to outperform Bitcoin. And it just makes sense to me. I think Bitcoin obviously was going to dominate the last couple of years because of the massive inflows into the ETFs, because Trump, talking so much about Bitcoin and all this great stuff. But I think that continues to happen, right? I think there's going to be countries that buy in sovereign wealth funds. But I think from here, um, the growth from ETH is going to be even bigger, I think, because of everything that's going to go on chain. Like you see Wall Street talking about how they're going to pretty much rebuild a lot of the financial system, at least bonds, lending, RWAs, all this stuff on chain. And most of that is going to go onto Ethereum as of now. So with all of that, I think in the short term for sure, because of the setup and where the way ETH looks, I think on this next leg we're going to see ETH outperform Bitcoin, especially once it breaks above that 4,800 all-time high that it's kind of been battling with for 4 or 5 years now. I think once it breaks above that psychological barrier, guys, that it's going to really break away and get closer to 10K pretty quickly. And at that point, I think it does outperform Bitcoin. And I think that's also if we look at Bitcoin dominance, which I mean, if we look at these three things together, guys, Bitcoin dominance, ETH, Bitcoin, and then ETH, I think it tells us that on this next leg up, tells us a few things. First of all, it tells us that Bitcoin dominance coming down the last few weeks is not what we see during bear markets. As you guys can see during the actual um, when ETH when Bitcoin topped out, we saw in November 2021. We saw essentially during the bear market of last time, we saw ETH Bitcoin kind of consolidated and chop sideways. To me, this chart looks like Bitcoin dominance is going to just trend down and continue down. To me, this is not what we see at the beginning of a bear market. I think this is a sign, just another sign pointing to the likelihood of us bouncing back into the end of the year. Uh, and then yeah, if you just look at ETH, like I said, ETH Bitcoin, I think it is going to explode out here, which is again just pointing to the fact that I think ETH is going to outperform Bitcoin and probably Sol to the upside here, and do really well in 2026. I think. So same kind of thing. XRP even is looking amazing. Anything in the top 10, even a lot of the vaporware shit, I think is going to do well. Pengu looking absolutely amazing right now. We're going to go over those top 10 setups here in a second that I have, but obviously Bitcoin and ETH are among them. ETH, if we're going to have to categorize out of the L1s, which one has the best setup, I'm going to have to go with ETH. Again, it's more, as you guys can see here, the 200 moving average, when I showed you on Bitcoin here a second ago, how high it was above price. Like we have to go all the way to 110K here just to get back to that 200 moving average. Ethereum's 200 moving average is only about 5% or less above price right now, meaning this is a lot more choppy corrective structure, just a lot more clear correction to me on the charts. And then, like I nailed out all this other stuff earlier with the institutions, all that stuff. DATs, I think, are going to continue to be a dominant force, at least the ones that are doing it right, like Bitmine and the others. And I think it's only going to continue the acceleration of ETH to the upside on this next leg up here. But I mean, if you look at Sol, same kind of thing. Sol also a nice setup. I think Sol also hits all-time highs next year, and then probably gets closer to 500 to 1,000, sometimes next year. That's kind of my target. And but yeah, big ass, consolidation here for Solana. But what do we see here? I don't know if you guys noticed on the higher time frames, especially on the weekly, it's easier to see. We're seeing a potential inverse head and shoulders here for Solana, which inverse head and shoulders are oftentimes what the two main patterns that these bottoms manifest in. Usually we see usually three setups, either a double bottom like we've seen here. I'll show you guys here, like a double bottom, like in March, where price will go up, go back and retest that low, and then go up. Same kind of thing here. It's kind of a triple bottom. In fact, actually, this is an inverse head and shoulders here on Bitcoin, where it bottomed out, went up, formed a head. I mean, it spiked down, formed a shoulder, didn't go lower than that shoulder, and went up. But either we see double bottoms or inverse head and shoulders, right? Inverse head and shoulders are essentially a double bottom. It's essentially, it forms a shoulder here, kind of spikes down and forms a low, and then kind of retests that low, but doesn't go lower than the first low, kind of forming, you guys see here, like a kind of, you see a shoulder, a head, and a shoulder. Usually the second shoulder here, which Sol is potentially forming, is that last confirmation to where if price doesn't go back down, back lower than that $100 low here, that the head, that is oftentimes, that is the confirmation that price is very likely about to move up and go back to all-time highs. So the fact that Sol is consolidating here, and if it does move out of this corrective channel here at a 180, 170, I think that's the final kind of confirmation on a very higher time frame setup that I think could act as a rocket fuel, or act as a spring, I should say, to push Sol definitely back above 200, but probably closer to 3, 4, 500 next year. Let's look at the S&P 500 here. As you guys can see, and again, another reason why I'm just so bullish on crypto having a strong year in 2026 is because risk assets, the stock market has already shrugged off all the bullshit like FUD from the rate cuts. I'm sorry, like them maybe not cutting rates and the trade war and all that shit. And we're seeing here, if you guys are hearing stuff outside, guys, there's probably people outside, but I apologize. But and if you guys are just tuning in, I am outside of my balcony, so you might hear a little bit of a white noise. But if you guys can see here, stock market's already moving up. Everything outside of crypto, on the outside, which again does influence crypto on the higher time frames, is bullish. I mean, SP, like I just showed you, the S&P 500. If we go to DXY, the dollar index, too, guys, I don't know if you guys remember, I've been mapping out this setup for quite a long time here. Had this box up here, and I told you guys, once we come into this box, very likely if we get a rejection, that I think the DXY, which is the dollar index, it measures the strength of the dollar against all the other fiat currencies, right? And again, historically, when the dollar has moved down, that's when we see risk assets absolutely explode. Stock index, crypto, all that. As you guys can see here in this run from March 20, this is when crypto just went crazy. When Bitcoin went from Bitcoin went from 7,000 all the way to 60,000. What did we see DXY do? Came down almost 10 points. And then once the Bitcoin bear market started, we saw DXY just go absolutely crazy. And then what has happened every time DXY's moved down, we've essentially gotten a pretty strong move up in crypto. I think essentially DXY dollar index is getting ready to make another impulse down on the higher time frames, which again is another piece of evidence that supports a crypto bull run in 2026. Again, none of these things by themselves are like the holy grail, but if you combine, again, Bitcoin charts, you combine, again, a lot of these macro indicators with the DXY, with a lot of these other things, looking at the stock market, you look at a lot of the macro side, a lot of this stuff, I think you piece all of these things together. And I think the only mystery right now, and the only thing that really is like not pointing to an absolutely strong bull market, is just how swift and how strong this move down was, for Bitcoin. It looks a lot more like the impulsive moves I showed you from 2021. But with that being said, like I just said a second ago, this is one piece of information, guys. Us as good traders and investors, what I've learned, I mean, you can't just be looking at one piece of information, especially price action. Like, you guys know I'm a chart guy. I'm posting charts all the time. I feel like I have, somewhat of an edge in this chart stuff. But even I realize charts are just one piece of information. Like, even if I see this extremely bullish setup coming, there might be some macro news or some shit that comes out of nowhere that just, invalidates it. And vice versa. Like, there might be something chart wise that just kind of just a mystery. But if the macro side is fucking bullish, super bullish, you got the regulatory side, obviously, progressing with the Clarity Act, a lot of potential catalysts there. Institutions still continuing to push forward with their crypto adoption. I think you add all those things together. I think it's obvious. I think Bitcoin does have a strong bull market in 26. But again, only thing that's really a mystery at all is what this next price action does. We need to see Bitcoin break above that 100, that red moving average, 200 moving average. But either way, how I'm handling this, um, one second, I'll let this plane fly overhead. Um, But yeah, Carl, Doms, I'm gonna go over some good memes to get into in a second. But yeah, I think we just got to see what happens in the next few weeks. But I think we do get an explosion to the upside. Let me see here. What's up, Gambler? I'm just reading some of the comments real quick. What's up, Gambler? What's up, Ash? Mark, Americana. But yeah, man, this is somebody who's been through multiple of these kind of corrective periods and boredom periods before. Like, just the combination of just like drama and everything the last few months, and then also just like boredom and no volatility is definitely one of a kind. But if anything I've learned from these like anything I've learned from these times is the more quiet and boredom and like fucking despair there is on the other side to the inverse is usually how explosive and how much more FOMO on the other side as people realize their assumptions and their expectations weren't, you know, were a lot more that things were a lot worse than they are. I mean, I can just give the perfect example back in and again, if you guys are just pulling up, Carl, I will give a little bit of a recap in a second. But if you guys are pulling up, I'd appreciate if you could like, comment, retweet, share. We do these streams twice a week. Um, Tuesdays and Fridays at 11 a.m. PST. Because of the holidays and a few other things this week, I have switched up the schedule and kind of streamed when I could. But this week, starting Tuesday, I'm going to go back to 11 a.m. sharp PST. I know a lot of you guys are in work and a lot of different stuff, and you put aside time to get on the stream. So I appreciate that. I will stick to 11 a.m. from now on. I appreciate you guys coming on anyway. But uh, if you guys could like, comment, retweet, share, and I am actually, before I forget, am doing a giveaway of these FWOG blind boxes. Essentially, as you guys can see, my FWOG, I have the FWOG PFP for a while. That's a 1 of 1 collection they did a while back, 100-piece collection. But recently, Groot and the FWOG team released these blind box NFTs where essentially you're going to be able to redeem these for physical figurines here in a few months. And as well as anybody who bought a 12 pack gets an automatic whitelist to this new FWOG collection they're doing. This 101 5,555 FWOG collection coming minting on OpenSea here in about 4 or 5 days. If you bought the 12 pack, you automatically got a whitelist, and then these 1 pack NFTs as well give you a enter a raffle into, I don't know how many they're putting out, maybe 500 of these um, FWOG blind boxes. I'm sorry, the single blind box enters you into a raffle to win one of those 555 whitelists, 5,555 whitelists, to mint one of these FWOG PFP NFTs. Again, it's a free mint as well, and I mean this. I think this is probably the most hyped slash attention driven NFT mint that I've seen in a long time. Again, Groot has been producing art. The FWOG, you obviously know the FWOG coin, which is up today as well, which is cool to see. We see both of those. Uh, oh yeah, nice little pop there from the FWOG coin. But I think, oh my bad, nice little pop there from FWOG. But yeah, pretty good team despite everything that's gone on with meme coins in the last few months. Groot, great artist. It seems like they do want to build something for the IP, but at the very least, I think these NFTs have a shot of doing well, especially at a free mint. So definitely check that out. I'm gonna go ahead and do the giveaway in a 24 hours from about 22, 23 hours from now. So definitely check that out. And then I am also on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Do me a favor, check me out on there. Shoot me a follow on all those platforms. We are streaming on YouTube and Instagram right now. Shout out to all the few people on Instagram. We are streaming on X. So if you aren't on there, go ahead and check us out. Shoot us a follow on there. But yeah, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, gonna pick up the content in there into 2026, trying to branch out. I think crypto Twitter is getting pretty slow, but on those other platforms, I will say TikTok, there's some guys live streaming over there that are pretty consistent. But from what I understand, kind of like viewership levels are at like 2018, 2019 levels for YouTube and a lot of these other places. But as someone who I think I want to branch out to these other platforms, I'm trying to plant my flag there now in some way. So if you guys could go and check me out on there, shoot me a DM, and I'll definitely shoot you a follow back. Um, let's go ahead and look at the chat real quick before we move on. What's up, Carl? Quick recap. We were just talking about Bitcoin, brother, and I think how very likely. Oh, you saw a lot of it. Okay, for sure. Pretty much Bitcoin. We just did a quick recap on. I think we get a bounce in the next few weeks. We've got to see how strong the move is. If it can break above the 200 moving average and about 110, I think we go straight back to all time highs from here. Worst case, we roll over into all time for one more low. Good time to buy memes. Yes, specifically the movement memes. Okay, so I already just went over I went over three of those best 10 setups right now. We're gonna go over a few more. Giga, Giga, I think is despite it being down, a lot of these. What is this down now? 94, 95%. On paper, again, you tell anybody in TradFi that they shit their pants. But again, if we look at history, Giga, Mog, SPX, all have gone through 90% corrections before. I think this is the deepest / most severe meme coin correction that we probably ever seen outside of back when Doge went down. And therefore, I'm not really surprised that some of these great coins are down 90% plus. So if you really just look at the community, which is still very strong, they have a fitness brand that's in the Walmart.com. Um, I think very likely Giga is going to have a strong recovery. I think very likely back to all time highs and eventually over $1 billion. And I know sounds crazy that I can just you think like, oh, you're gonna predict a 20x run on a meme coin. But again, guys, it's like think about what I like to think about is like the upside on these coins are essentially directly correlated to how much doubt and fear and how much people just don't want to touch these things outside the core community right now. And I think that's what's priced in here. And I think a lot of people assume there's going to be no more meme coins. Meme coins are dead. Meme coins are NFTs. They're gonna slow bleed for the next 3 or 4 years. And I just don't buy that. I think people who say that just have a short term memory or they just don't look at charts because meme coins have already gone through 2 to 3 wipeouts, washouts over the last couple of years, and the great ones have come out every time. Again, it's all driven by Bitcoin. Every single thing in this market is driven the health of everything over a longer period of time, if we're looking past 3, 6, 9 months, is driven by Bitcoin. So I think it's simple as the great coins, the ones that survive, the ones that still have good communities and all that, will bounce back out of these corrections. And I think Giga has a strong shot at doing that, probably back to all-time highs and goes to multiple billions. So, I've been accumulating a lot of Giga, obviously. So I'm talking my bags right here. But again, we've seen Giga go through 470 plus percent corrections. Obviously, this is the biggest one, but it's been through 60 plus percent corrections in the last year alone. And maybe the last year and a half alone. So this is not something that these coins haven't seen before. Really like Giga, that's one of them. Mog, obviously. And when you ask are meme coins going to bounce back, I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to see it's going to be pretty crazy. Like I think most meme coins are dead, right? I think like we've seen in any of these corrections, most meme coins are not going to make it out of this. But the strong ones that do, the movement memes, the few, pop cat, some of the ones that are more singular memes are going to go back to all-time highs, 2, 3, 5, 10 billion, some of them. And then also, I think the category of memes as a whole is going to bounce back. I think the pump fund trenches, just like we see every the other time, even more so now that they're kind of more of a solidified company and everything there. I think the pump fund trenches bounce back. So pretty much I think the strong memes from 24, 25, the movement memes bounce back, and then meme coins as a category continue to grow. I think we saw Art School Reject, which if you guys aren't following her, definitely check it out. Art School Reject on Twitter. She talked about today. Let's see, the meme coin bubble. She's putting in quotations. The meme coin bubble is going to be worth trillions over the next decade. Learn skill. I tend to agree with her. Right. I don't really focus too much on a lot of on chain stuff, but um, but I do think these basic skills are very important, and I do think the meme coin bubble is going to continue to grow in general. Let me see. What's up, Humbled One? What's up, Jeremy? How you doing? Do you think trench volume will be hot ever again, Bren? Yes, I think I just answered that. So I'm glad you asked that, Carl. But yeah, bro, I do think it. I do think, like we've always seen, Bitcoin drives the health of the entire market, and we are going to see the trenches, I think, reignite into the end of the year. I don't know about into the end of the year, in 2026. What do you think about Vale? You were Bossman talking about on the Telegram. I haven't looked at Vale in a bit here. I think it was definitely Bossman who posted it, but let me see. Yeah, I mean, let's see here. So, yeah, I mean, Vale looks pretty corrective. It does look like a bit of consolidation too. I could see it coming down a bit more with the rest of the market. It's kind of sideways, but overall in the higher time frames, this does look pretty corrective, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it move up after a bit more consolidation. Is there any G giveaway? Yeah, no giveaway on the today's stream. If we ever get normies to buy memes again, they'll probably buy something that went viral before. Yeah, no, there'll be a lot of that, dude. There'll be the normies. I will say the normies are gonna buy Doge, you know, probably Doge, Shib, a lot of these other coins that a lot of these other coins from the past cycles as well, but it's gonna be a lot of the movement memes. Let's see here. But yeah, especially into the weekend, guys. The best thing that I think we could see is Bitcoin just chop sideways, maybe early into next week, just falls lower, and then makes that final spring out of the low here. Yeah, no worries. But yeah, you guys have any comments, questions, chart requests? I just wanted to hop on a little bit with you guys and to chop it up. I know a lot of people are probably, at least in the U.S., on 4-day weekends and probably enjoying time with their family and everything. Really, I mean, I wrote in the thing too. Really, what you should be doing during these times, at least what I do, is a few things. Really, where I attribute how I've been able to learn so much and get really nerdy and shit with some of this stuff, especially on the macro side. When I didn't go to I don't have a macro background, a degree. I didn't have a fucking uncle and Wall Street teaching me anything. Is by watching the way I've been able to learn so much so quickly over the last few years is by watching long form interviews with experts. Um, you know, experts in macro, crypto, some of these people that have different funds, people, especially people who have decades of experience and time in the game. Um, I love watching these interviews and podcasts with these guys, and that's where most of the nuggets are. Bankless really still is one of the big ones, but was a go-to podcast for this thing type of thing. Um, the guys at Bankless are great. I think they're cool and I enjoy watching them. But the reason why I went to them so heavily over any other podcast is they continue to have some of the smartest motherfuckers like in the space on, from again fund managers, macro guys, founders of different protocols and different projects within the space. And I've just learned so much from just watching these interviews. So I think right now during these times is the perfect time to do that. Again, Bankless is a good one. Um, uh, Sorry, I was reading something. Bankless is a good one. Thread Guy has a lot of the good guys on in a lot of different areas. Founders, um, a lot of the same kind of people that Bankless has on. The what is this guy? What is his name? I'll find it. Luca Nets interview. This guy right here. what's his name? Try to find it right now. Um, the When Shift Happens podcast. This guy's really good. And again, this shit might seem boring to some. I actually always, and I think that's why I've been able to stick with it for so long, is this type of stuff is entertaining to me. Believe it or not, a lot of this shit, it's like stuff that I would watch that actually brings me some entertainment value. Um, but either way, it's like this is the type of shit that kind of separates and allows you to have views on these things and get see a lot of a lot of these things that most people wouldn't from just watching clips or just reading tweets. Um, especially during these corrective periods, like a lot of uncertainty. If you're only looking at price action right now, you're kind of like, fuck, what's going to happen? But if you're looking at all this macro stuff, regulatory stuff, watching interviews from guys who are on the inside of this stuff, it's kind of really obvious to where stuff's going. I think another good one too is Eric Trump. You know, say what you want about the Trumps, whatever. Obviously, um, just getting an insight. He did a couple interviews, but I really like this one where he kind of talks about their whole journey into crypto and how they want to, make Bitcoin into, a huge talk about the reserve and a lot of different stuff and how they really do plan on integrating Bitcoin into a lot of things. A lot of people see how much the Trumps made in crypto and they just assume everything's a money grab. Of course, maybe a lot of it is they're trying to make money, but I think in a lot of ways what they've done in the regulatory stuff and a lot of stuff he talks about in this interview, I think a lot of this stuff is going to be long term and really push crypto to like long term legitimacy. Bren, do you think we sweep the 80s, or is there a chance for a V shape? Yeah, we talked about that on the top of the show. Historically, if we look at every single other correction of this since 2023, they've all ended in 3 to 8 weeks of consolidation, meaning a W bottom. So the chances of that happening, probably not great based on other corrections. But really, what I'd like to see generally is just Bitcoin hold above 80K for another week or two. Whether that means we go and W bottom and bottom out at 82K, or it just holds here, chop sideways for a little bit, and then just moves up without retesting it. Generally, guys, I do think Bitcoin is going to hold above 80K very likely over the next few weeks. And if it can hold into like mid December or like the second week of December, I would really think that the bottom is almost certainly in. And I would like even more if it came down to 83K. It would allow me to add to an ETH long position that I've been building. But essentially, guys, next few weeks, I think we bottom out, move higher. Got to see how strong the move is. I think very likely 70% plus that move takes us back to all-time highs. 30% chance that if we don't break above the 200 moving average on the daily time frames, like I have here, the red moving average, which again has been the confirmation for us for every single one of these corrections, that when price moves back above that 200 moving average, it's equaled an all-time high every single time since then. So if price is able to move back above that 200 moving average, which is again all the way at about 108, 107K right now, then I would think, okay, final confirmation. We're going back to all-time highs, probably going to 140, 150K. If not, if Bitcoin does what it did back in 2021, trades back to that 200 moving average, fails to break, there is a good chance that it does roll over back into the 60s or 70s. But I think very likely that would be the final low, and I would be backing up the truck and buying a lot of the great coins. And I think whether we go to all-time highs and we hit an all-time high into the end of the year in January, or it takes into March or April, I'm extremely bullish into 2026, and I think we just got to wait this thing out, man. Really. But yeah, the setups a second ago, we went over Veil, Mog, Giga, SPX is probably the fucking most obvious one. I do think XPX, so many people showing their face and like, going on TikTok and shit talking about it. I think SPX is going to become a global movement, and take it into the 2, 3, 5, 10 billion range. And again, I talk about these same coins throughout this time. We obviously, hit some of the newer coins too, but again, just sticking to the bread and butter of DCAing into great coins right now and taking profits on the way up, is just going to do so many people, change so many people's lives this year. And like it has during these other times. The problem is most people are completely just out of the market at this point and kind of wait till prices are 2, 3, 5, 10x higher. At that point, you're increasing your risk. It fucks with your mind. I think the people who are willing and able to just DCA, even if it's a little bit, 10, 20% of your portfolio into coins like this, they're going to do very well on the other end of this. Again, with the understanding that we could be in this for another 3, 4, 5 months. But even if I told you that you could 10x your portfolio, but you had to wait 6 months, would you be happy with that? I think you would, right? It's just about putting it into perspective. That's kind of how I view this thing. That I think at least my meme portfolio, if I'm able to DCA into a lot of these coins that I already took profits on the way up, but DCA into these, I think that easily will 5, 10x, 20x my meme portfolio, just that small that part of it. And I think a lot of people could do the same. Again, the trade off is just DCAing and holding these coins throughout so much quote unquote uncertainty. That's the trade off. There's really no free lunch in this game, obviously. But I'm gonna go ahead and hop off here in about 8, 9 minutes. Again, market's completely fucking slow. But I just want to hop on here and stay consistent with the streams. Obviously, there'll be a lot more to talk about and a lot more setups to look at, as we get closer to kind of the end of this corrective period. But again, I give the same advice to everybody that we give every single time during these times is just stay involved. Even if that just means, checking Twitter, checking charts, watching some interviews, like I said, every couple months. DCAing again if you have the capital. If you don't have the capital, I get it. I've had to start over, in past years. But if you do, I definitely I would just recommend using times like this as opportunity and buying and less buying on the way up if you can. But dude, it's crazy. Even on the timeline I was looking earlier, there's like nothing to fucking review. Oh yeah, Pudgy Penguins today too, guys. I don't know if you guys saw. I've been talking a lot about this trend recently with the blind boxes, just kind of like how Fwog is doing, where they have these mystery blind boxes where essentially you mint these NFTs, and at a later date you can redeem them for a physical product, and also you can resell the NFT on the open market instantly. So I think this is kind of where a lot of e-commerce in general is headed. We're going to see Nike, for example, and I think a lot of these other companies where you can a new shoe drops, you can essentially mint it. And again, this is all done in the background. The people they can just buy it with their credit card, but essentially they're minting an NFT that's kept on whatever the Nike's marketplace. If a lot of these shoes are very limited, right? So at least they were in the past. So if you say you get access and you're able to buy one of those limited shoes that other people didn't get access into buying, you can buy that and resell it on the open market to somebody who wants to pay for it for more, or you can redeem it with Nike instantly or whenever they redeem it and they send you the shoe. I think this is something that we're going to see not only in NFTs but just overall in e-commerce, and I think it's pretty exciting. So I haven't had a chance to buy any yet, but I'd imagine these are some kind of plushies or something from Pudgy. So I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. My boy Jazz. That's funny as fuck. Let's see what Elio says here. Tinfoil hat time. Trump needs a quick market crash so he can roll out the cavalry before midterms. Deflation shock now, followed by ZERP, QE, and stimmy checks by Q2. He keeps ripping economy and low inflation risk in the election. Uh, yeah, this is tricky. While I don't really think 57K where he has here is very likely, again, guys, I could see the possibility because of how severe this move down was. If you guys see in these past corrections, again, I'm a nerd. I love to look at these. I love to look at these past corrections and kind of compare them to now, because again, they leave clues. These past corrections, it's kind of chopped right into that 200 moving average, and it barely moves below and then moves up. Right? You see here, it barely moves below the 200 moving average and then moves right back up. It barely moves below that 200 moving average, the red one, and then moves back up. But what did we see here for this correction that's really different is we moved way below that 200 moving average. And now we're kind of consolidating. So while I do think there's a really strong possibility we move back towards that 200 moving average, it's going to take an explosive ass move just to move it back past that. So that's why I think that what Elio is saying and why I still have a 30% chance on this happening is it's going to take a really strong move, fast move in order for us to break above there. So I could see the strong possibility again that we do roll over one more time, like Elio is saying, probably into the 70s or 60s if I had to guess. 50s sounds a little bit OD, like a little bit crazy, but again, this premise I could see, play out. Again, we got to see how this next strong move up is. I'm personally still leaning towards an all-time high straight from here, but again, if this move were to happen, it would not shock me. Let's see, anything else on the timeline? Solana fixing tokenomics. Do you guys have any videos, anything you want me to review too? Let me know. As this period closes up, we're gonna pick some type of platform to have some kind of community, Discord or chat or something of some sort, whether it be on Telegram, Twitter, something. That's so funny. So we can do more review stuff on there. But if you have anything you want me to review, any videos or anything, let me know.
What happened to the conviction? What happened to people believing in something? What happened to them is everyone that's believed in something has lost money. The age of conviction is gone, outside of maybe 3 or 4 tokens, because every single person that's believed in something has gotten their heart ripped out of their chest, thrown to the ground and stomped on, and they lose money over and over and over again. It's like if you date someone and every single relationship you've been in, you trust them and you get cheated on. You get cheated on. You get cheated on. And then the 6th relationship you're in, the person goes, oh, why don't you trust me? I've been programmed to not trust you. That's what's going on with crypto holders right now. They've been cheated on 17 times in the last 12 months, and then now the 18th person is like, hey, why don't you trust me anymore? Because I've been programmed not to trust you. Frankly, outside of 3 or 4 projects, I've seen maybe, if not 1 to 2, does it warrant conviction. If you haven't earned the conviction, you can't ask for it. And frankly, now holders of tokens, I think, have unrealistic expectations too. I see people talking shit to Jeff from Hyperliquid because they're so heartbroken. They're so used to being heartbroken that they're like, hey, Jeff, if you sell any of your tokens, if you do anything to earn or get paid for the hard work you've done for the last 3 years, fuck you. Only I can make money. It's a broken relationship right now, and I don't know what's going to fix it. Frankly, that's one of the biggest problems with crypto right now.
Honestly, he has a good point, and I think that is, I will say, even though I do think I will say he has a good point that that's definitely why people are feeling so down bad right now, because it's like they're having trust issues because the last year hasn't been a good year for holding meme coins, or holding coins in general. But I would say that, again, if we are wanting crypto to become a stable asset class, we should expect down and sideways years. It's going to happen, right? And I think totally has a point. But again, we got to zoom out past a year. We got to, if we want to make it, like, we got to realize that just because holding was punished, quote unquote punished this year for most of the year, that doesn't mean it's going to be like that for the next 5 or 10. Right? If we look at the stock market, for example, Tesla, all these. I'm not looking at Tesla. I'm not looking at. Thank you. If we look at Tesla, I guess I can pull it up too. Tesla, a lot of these stocks, right? They have big corrective periods, but over time they're essentially just moving up. And yes, I know not every meme coin, SPX 69, whatever, it's not Tesla, right? A lot of these aren't, but we see Tesla, for example, is a perfect example. Tesla topped out in October of 2021, and it has still yet to break above its all-time high. Does that mean Tesla's a piece of shit? Some people might say so. Tesla's pretty polarizing, but Tesla's one of the biggest companies in the world, looking to probably become a huge robotics company, AI company, might, become the biggest company in the world. Like, But what did we see? It still hasn't broken its all-time high. So yes, even some of the greatest assets in the world, fucking Disney. Who didn't grow up watching fucking Disney? Like whose kid, I don't know about these days. I don't have any kids, so I'm talk out of my ass, but like Disney for example, um it was correcting. Damn, it's moved out of this all-time high now. Hold on one second. Disney, for example, was a perfect example. It was correcting for a time here, from January 2024 to June of 2025, essentially a year and a half. Disney, the biggest company in the world, right? One of the biggest companies in the world, the biggest entertainment company in the world, right? Um, Insanely, everybody knows fucking Disney everywhere. And what did it do? It corrected from a year and a half and went all the way down. Am I looking at the right fucking thing? I'm looking at it in the Argentinian peso. Are you fucking give me a second, dude? What is that about? Setting me up. It should be good here. Okay. Okay. This makes more sense. That's why I was kind of confused for a second. It's weird. It was going up against the Argentinian peso, but Disney, biggest company in the fucking world, uh, saw its all time high in March of 2021 and is still down 100%. Or I'm sorry, still down 50%. It needs the 2x to go back to all time highs. And I don't think Disney is going anywhere. I think Disney, obviously, there's a lot of drama around different stuff they've done the last few years, but I think Disney goes back to all time highs eventually, right? And this just goes to show Tesla, Disney, a lot of the biggest companies in the world have years and years and years where they don't go back up. And if we're going to see meme coins or any of these asset classes or any of these coins, we should expect that there's going to be years where they don't go up. And if anything, that leads to the fact that it's probably going to be more stable over time as if it has down periods instead of just up only, right? So, yeah, I think while I do agree that that sentiment is why a lot of people aren't holding stuff. I think if you zoom out, we got to zoom out past a few years on Tesla, Tesla, stocks, every of these other asset classes, even in crypto in past years, people who are willing to buy and hold usually outperform almost everybody. Um, Again, on the right assets, and taking profits on the way up will usually outperform everybody else who are just playing these short-term games. But he has a great point. I get it. These coins are down 80 or 90%. You want to take profits on the way up. But again, holders, I think, especially people who are buying down here and are able to time this, I think are going to do incredibly well in the next few years, even though they haven't done, you know, the greatest lately. But I appreciate everybody coming on here, guys. I know it's a fucking super slow week. Um, what is up, Rojam? Nice to see you, my man. Latest opinion on BNB? Yeah, I can look at that for you. Oh, I'm seeing a few comments in here. Quick total 3 chart analysis. Yeah, let me look at total 3 since you did that first. Okay. Total 3. I'm glad you brought this up. Holy shit. This is an amazing setup on total 3. Like, wow. Yeah, I definitely am going to clip this. This is a nice setup. So, as you can see here, total 3 is in just another one of these absolutely beautiful corrective coil ups. Again, every market, every asset is in one of 3 phases: impulses, which this is an impulse; corrections, which are these corrective coil ups; and then peaks, which are tops and bottoms. Each of these 3 phases have distinct characteristics. Corrections, which we're looking at here, are the perfect ones, at least, are they move down, but they're very choppy in nature. They'll get moves down, chop, 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 moves down, chop, 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 moves down, chop, chop, chop. You can see here another one. Moves down, chop, 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 bounce. Moves down, chop, chop, chop. Like, it never moves down super quickly for a long period of time like we see in bear markets. Another one, moves down but bounces. Moves down, chop, 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 bounces. Chop, 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 bounce. Chop, 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 bounce. As you can see here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 4th one, all of them leading to all-time highs afterwards. And that's because, again, these corrections and the price actions leave clues. And I think this correction, again, is forming a third low in this nice corrective coil up, retesting what we saw in 2025. And again, for those of you guys don't know, forgot to say total 3 essentially measures measures the total crypto market cap if you were to take out Bitcoin and ETH. So this is the total crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. And what essentially this does is it gives us a better view at how the altcoin market outside of the two biggest coins are doing. So again, a move up on total 3 usually equates to alts, memes, other stuff also growing. And I think the reason why we're still at levels that we already saw, you know, back in a year and a half ago is because alts and memes have really failed. Memes had a little bit of a run, had a big run in 24, but as a category overall, have really failed to break out of like and have a really strong alt period. And that's kind of why we've gone sideways for the most part. But I do think on this next run, we do have a more sustained quote unquote alt season where, we get, maybe not every fucking coin moving, but we get the total crypto market cap moving up as a whole. And I think we go above 1.5, potentially 2 trillion, which would be double of what we're looking at right now in 2026. So I think this beautiful corrective coil up, again, third low, we really want to see it break above break out of the corrective channel. And then as we see here, what has been the final confirmation that price is really gone to all-time highs is once price breaks above the 200 moving average, which again, the red moving average on my chart, once it moved above here, it never came back until, again, it never came back until it made all-time highs. Same thing. Once it broke above the 200 moving average here, never came back until it moved to all-time highs. Same kind of thing here. Once it broke above the 200 moving average all the way down here, never came back until it hit all-time highs. So I think same thing's going to happen here. I think Toe 3 bottoms out. We get a huge alt and meme run into 2026. And this time I think it breaks out of this, year and a half long consolidation and moves to all-time highs. So I don't know. I hope you guys are seeing all these different things outside of most people who just look at Bitcoin and ETH price. I hope you're seeing that all the kind of puzzle pieces that we're fitting together throughout, from total 3 to DXY to Bitcoin dominance to looking at some of the macro stuff, obviously looking at poly market and seeing how why is poly market not working? That's whack. I don't know why it's not loading. But if you look at poly market, you're seeing the rate, the chance that we get another rate cut is in the 80 percentile. Um, all these different things, puzzle pieces outside of just looking at the Bitcoin chart, again, are pointing to again to a bullish year. I think so. Gotta let it wait out. Again, I think this weekend, best thing we could do is just chop sideways and just let this thing again hold above 81K for a couple more weeks. If we're able to do that, I think we get an explosion up from there. We really got to see how we behave around that 200 moving average. Worst case scenario, Bitcoin rolls over, goes over down into the 60s, 70s one more time. Maybe kind of how Leo has in his chart over here. But either way, guys, I think 2026, I'm extremely optimistic. Just really the waiting and the uncertainty, and during these times, is just the trade-off that we take for the strong, exciting times on the other side. So, with that, guys, I hope everybody had a good rest of your good Thanksgiving weekends if you celebrate. I know a lot of people have a 4-day weekend who work and all that. So enjoy your rest of your time with friends, family, or just relaxing. I think these markets, fucking being really boring is a blessing in disguise. A lot of times, it allows a lot of people to maybe save up some more money, play catch up, all this different, good things. Obviously not the funnest times, but I think it again setting us up for a strong 2026. So, with that, guys, let me check the chat. BNB. Let me look at BNB real quick. BNB, I think, is going to continue to be strong. Um, big correction here, but I think once Bitcoin does come out, BNB is going to do one of two things, right? It's going to just go straight to all-time highs from here, or it's going to go right here, chop one more lower like we saw in Bitcoin, maybe goes 700, 600, and then goes to all-time highs. But I'm still very optimistic on BNB. again, maybe it comes back and might be a nice level if it retests this all-time high here from 2021, 2022. Sometimes it's oftentimes what we'll see here on some of these higher time frame charts. So maybe that might be a really nice confluence level for you. But yeah, overall, I'm really optimistic on the great assets. What wouldn't it be better to exclude stables? Yeah, no, that's probably a good point, Rojam, and I think that word could muddy the water a bit. But as you can see here, a lot of people are moving into stables, Rojam, and it really hasn't affected Total Three too much. Except it really, I shouldn't say it hasn't affected too much to the upside, right? If it was really weighing heavy, um, I don't know. You make a good point though, because if they start printing a lot of stable coins, it may really weigh into it. But yeah, I would say to best gauge and get a great view on the overall altcoin market, you'd want to exclude stables. When you say 2026, do you say quarter, right, or mid? Again, I went over the few scenarios that if Bitcoin just explodes to all time highs from here, obviously early 26 could be strong, but if it rolls over one more time, we could be until Q1, end of Q1, Q2. Overall, I think 26 at some point is going to be really strong. Obviously, we're hopeful that it's Q1, but I think what I think is the least likely scenario is that we get a 2021 type bear market where Bitcoin just goes down for another 7, 8, 9 months. I think even if we were to roll over one more time, that this correction is going to look a lot like 2024, where maybe it's a 6 month correction top to bottom, where Bitcoin topped out in October and then we get a bottom here in March or April. That's what I think. If we get another leg down, I think that's probably the more likely scenario. I think a lot of people, either way, if we get a move down, everybody's going to be assuming that Bitcoin's going to do a 2021 type correction and roll over another 60 to 75%. But frankly, I just don't think we're in 2021 anymore. We have a macro situation that's greatly improving every day. I think we have the regulations coming in. We have institutional adoption. I think everything was extremely bearish right here in 2021, 2022, from all of those four things I named here, from price action to regulatory stuff, institutional stuff, macro wise. And here, I think we're at the opposite. And I think that's what's going to push us into a shorter term bear market and not something like 2021. Of course, all of that could change tomorrow. Somebody could fucking, God forbid, like a nuke hits somewhere, or like something breaks, or something we didn't know about economically. But I think if we play probabilities, I think either a bounce to all-time highs from here, or one more shallow move lower into the 60s or 70s or 60s, and all-time highs in it to Q1, Q2, 2026. GM Bren, what have I missed? You missed. We talked a lot about Bitcoin. Not much going on in the markets besides the majors kind of finishing out these corrections. Literally, I haven't seen a damn thing move the last few days. So we're kind of just going over some macro stuff, some of the Bitcoin stuff. And again, we talk about Bitcoin a lot, but it drives the entire market. So I appreciate you, Wayne. See you in December. Thanks for another good stream. See you in December. Yes, sir. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. If you guys are still on here, I appreciate you for hopping on. We are going to continue to do Tuesday and Friday streams. I, again, going to go back to 11 a.m. PST every time. Again, Tuesdays and Fridays. And then we do have a Twitter space on Thursday. We didn't do it yesterday because of Thanksgiving, obviously, but a Twitter space with a good homie of mine, Hemdog. And we're going to continue to do those despite the market conditions. The streams, obviously, there'll be more to talk about and stuff as time goes on. But everybody who's here now, I appreciate you. Give yourself a pat on the back. I think, again, just living through this insane volatility is just a rite of passage that everybody needs to live through in order to become a long-term crypto investor / trader. And I think there's no better time to go through it than now, before I think crypto enters like a gold rush / renaissance period. So Rojan, have a great weekend, Bren, and Can't Stop Me Now. Rojan always shouting out, Can't Stop Me Now. Good guy, Rojan. I appreciate you, brother. I appreciate Wayne, Crypto Carl, Crypto Basant. Oh, you said Aura Farm. Yeah, let me look at that for you really quickly, brother. I don't want to neglect your is it this Aura Farm? Yeah, I will. Is it this Aura Farm right here? Is it Aura Farm or Aura Farming? I assume it's this one on top because it's the only one with any real market cap. Um, only thing I can really tell you on this chart, brother, is that it's a steep correction. But again, we've seen corrections go through 90% before. Obviously, a million market cap coin at 277K obviously was never a huge coin in the first place. But if you really think there's a strong community behind it that can garner attention and there's a good narrative and all that behind it, then this is the time you want to be buying. I can't tell you whether you should have conviction on it or not because the things that would really drive this thing higher, the community and all that stuff, I really haven't looked into. But either way, I can tell you that this chart doesn't, despite it being down 90%, doesn't look absolutely terrible. There's bounces and stuff in between. It's been holding this low for 7 days. If it is going to move up, and you do think there's a, essentially, if you like certain coins like this during periods like this is essentially what when you want to add. But again, I can't tell you whether this coin's dead or not. I don't see any very much volume on this at all. Usually, that's a sign that not much is going on. But again, if you think that that might revitalize, then it might be a good time to buy. See you, Brandon. Enjoy your weekend. Yeah, Medex, appreciate you. And with that, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and log off, get some food, and I will see you guys on Tuesday. Have a good weekend. Again, just stick in the game. It doesn't mean you have to. Doesn't mean you have to be looking at charts all the time, obsessing over charts. Again, in fact, I just I would suggest you not doing that. But take the time to continue to check in, continue to look at charts, continue to study charts, continue to look at some of the stuff we talk about here on stream, watching streams like this, watching YouTube videos, taking an hour or two a day to get better before the market, conditions improve. Because I would hate for some of you guys to completely check out, sell everything, within a few months at the bottom and just kind of chasing everything, not even price wise, just kind of getting back into the swing of things. So, with that being said, guys, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, wherever you're at in the world, night, wherever you're at. And I will see you on Tuesday.